Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 6 December. For today we have picked up 9 news items from the Hindu newspaper. We'll discuss them in detail. The first one, Jayalalitha no more. So this is Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jayalalitha, who suffered from a cardiac arrest and has been declared dead. So she had launched various schemes for the welfare of the poor in her state, Tamil Nadu. Plus she belongs to AIADMK political party, who did very well under her leadership. It won back-to-back victories. The 2011 state legislative assembly elections were won by AIADMK. Then even the 2016 assembly elections presently were also won by AIADMK. The 2014 parliamentary Lok Sabha elections also saw the party doing well. Even in the local polls, parliament, panchayati polls too, the party has fared well. So now the schemes launched by her can be discussed. So these various schemes launched in 2011 and 2013 are pointed out. These are called brand Amma schemes. So she had launched Amma canteen scheme. So under this canteen scheme, food was provided as cheap as 1 rupee to 5 rupees. So these were her schemes. Then another one was Amma scheme. So this Amma scheme was assured maximum service to marginal people in all villages. So under this, revenue department officials and tehsildars had to visit every village every Friday to address their grievances. So this was also launched in 2013. Then Amma water. This scheme was for providing 1 liter water bottle in sold off rupees 10 at long distance bus stands. Then salt, Amma salt was there. So 3 varieties of salt were sold at around half the market price. Amma pharmacy, where 10 to 15% discount was given on medicines. Then Amma cement, in which cement was sold at half the price. So this was used for the poor section to building small houses. So these were various schemes launched by her. Then the next news item is Ansals assure court that they will not leave country. So this is regarding the Ansal brothers, Sushil and Gopal Ansal, who owned the Uphaar cinema. And in Uphaar cinema, there was a tragic fire accident in 1997, under which they were charged for negligence, and the case has been going on against them for long. Eventually, when the Supreme Court gave its judgment in 2015, it asked them to pay a total fine of 60 crores, 30 crores each should pay for negligence, which led to the death of around 55 people in 1997. So this was the incident which took place in Uphaar cinema, which is in Delhi. So it was 3 to 6 p.m. show of movie Border, in which fire broke off, and this fire incident had already occurred in the morning. So there was a fire at 7 a.m. and the security guard has alerted the owners also, and then the fire department had come up and action had been taken place, but then it resulted in this drastic accident in which people died, many were injured. So there are presently, the petition has been filed, review petition on the Supreme Court judgment. So presently the news is that the Ansal brothers have confirmed to the courts that they would not leave the country until while the petition is being heard. So this is regarding that. Earlier too, before 1997 too, there was an incident in Uphaar cinema in 1989. So that time too, there was a fire which had broken out, which was not so tragic, but then there were faults and negligence was there on the part of the cinema maintenance. So this Deputy Police Commissioner too in 1983 had cancelled licenses of 12 cinema halls in Delhi, including Uphaar cinema. So this later, still whatever was pointed out were the deficiencies in the functioning of Uphaar, technical problems, they were still present. So those violations which were pointed out were not rectified. Even 14 years later, finally the 1997 disaster occurred, the incident occurred. So this is regarding Uphaar cinema tragedy, the entire timeline from 1997 till 2015 when the Supreme Court gave its judgment. Presently, the review petition has been filed. Even Supreme Court has given directions to all cinema halls about having emergency evacuation plan in place. They should have fire drills every year in the theatre. So all staff members should be trained for evacuation procedures. So half yearly inspections should be there by the authorities in all cinema halls. There should be separate rules for multiplexes, which are huge, rather than single screen theatres. So there should be separate rules for them. So all these are the advisories which have been, directions which have been provided by the Supreme Court. The next news item is center not to make singing of national anthem compulsory in government schools. So we have heard about the national anthem case, that the judiciary gave its directions on it being compulsory to be played in cinema halls. So now there are demands that it should be played compulsory in government schools too. But the center in the Lok Sabha presently said that it is not planning to do anything of that sort. What is on agenda, it says that this making it compulsory comes under Right to Education Act of 2009 or under Article 51A, the fundamental duty under the Constitution. So both of these provisions can be used to bring in this notification, but the center will not do this because education, the subject is in concurrent list, and majority of the schools, government schools, are under the jurisdiction of the state governments and union territories. So they can take necessary action if required. The center is not going to pass any notification. So this clarification has been given. Then the next news item is India to train Vietnam Sukhoi fighter pilots. So India and Vietnam are coming closer, especially in the defense sector. So this is Sukhoi 30 jets. So these Sukhoi 30 fighter jets are Russian made, and India as well as Vietnam use it. And the two models which the two countries use, they are slightly different in configuration. So India will provide training to the Vietnam forces in using these Sukhoi jets. So this is on agenda. Plus India is already providing training for the use of these electric submarines, kilo class diesel electric submarines, which are again Russian made, which both India and Vietnam are using. So there is already cooperation on this matter. Even India has provided $500 million line of credit to Vietnam. Hanoi is the capital of Vietnam, for defense procurements. So to purchase any defense equipments from India, this is a line of credit provided. It said that for this training, this line of credit will not be used. So that has been clarified. But anyway, the cooperation comes to in the light of South China Sea dispute. So which is a dispute in South China Sea. You can see here, these are the countries. India lies here. Vietnam is a country here which is having border shared with China too, plus the South China Sea dispute amongst these countries in Southeast Asia and China is also ongoing. So you can see the map here and the South China Sea dispute here. China claims control over these small islands which lie up here. So majorly these are Paracel Islands, Partly Islands, Carbolo Islands. So all these islands are claimed by China. China says these islands belong to us. So if China has these islands belonging to it, then the Exclusive Economic Zone, EEZ, under UN clause, United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea. In general, the standard is that 200 nautical miles beyond these islands, beyond the land area, is the EEZ. So based on this claim that these islands belong to China, China claims this entire part as its EEZ. So this is China's point of view. Of course, these countries also claim control over these islands. Many of them are even uninhabited islands. So this Vietnam's claim is on this EEZ. So you can see these blue lines are the claims of various countries here. You can see Taiwan also claims access. Then this Philippines claims this is its EEZ. Brunei, Malaysia, Indonesia, all of them are involved in this dispute. So this is South China Sea dispute. So because of this too, India, Vietnam have also come closer, because India also maintains that it believes in freedom of navigation in high seas. So China is claiming access to entire South China Sea. But of course, you should remember one more point which is important, is that even if you claim that this is your EEZ based on 200 nautical miles criteria, then even under UN clause you cannot get 200 nautical miles between two countries, because Vietnam will also have its EEZ. So you cannot take over Vietnam's EEZ. So if the distance between the two countries, this nautical miles, is less than 400, if it is 400, the midline 200 would be shared. But if it is less than 400, then the midline would be shared, not 200. Means if it is say 300, then it would be 150 for each. So this is also there under UN clause, but China does not agree to any such norms. This is what it claims is its control. Then the next news item is proposal to amend law for cashless wage payments. So there is Payment of Wages Act of 1936. Under its section 6, it says that all payments of wages should be made in cash, and only if the employer takes a written permission from the worker that he can be paid in check or by crediting the amount in his bank account, only then cashless payment can be made. So presently the Ministry of Labour has proposed that this section 6 needs to be changed to bring in change or movement towards cashless economy. So this is there. An amendment would be proposed to this act. Then the next news item is populist win Italy vote, PM Renzi to quit. So this is regarding Italy's referendum which was conducted on constitutional amendment. So Italy had passed these constitutional amendments which were not passed by the required majority in the parliament. So it requires at least 2/3 majority in the parliament. So that support was not got through. That is why a referendum had to be passed so that people's views can be taken on the matter. So people would vote on these amendments, and if it is passed through the referendum, then it would be passed. Otherwise, the constitutional amendment fails. So even if the constitutional amendment fails, it does not ask the government to resign, but the Prime Minister in Italy, Mr. Renzi, Matteo Renzi, has taken the responsibility and he has decided to quit. So if the Prime Minister quits, then a new alternative government would have to be formed. Next elections are due in 2018. So maybe the elections would be preponed to 2017. So we'll have to wait and watch. So all this was because of the no campaign being strong to the 5-star movement, which was initiated by this anti-Euro group, the leaders here, and they said these constitutional reforms which were to update the constitution of the country. What were the major provisions for bringing in changes in the Senate's structure? So you can see the proposed amendments mentioned here. It was that the power of the parliament second chamber, the Senate, would be reduced. The number of senators would be reduced from 315 to 100. The right to hold votes of no confidence would be stripped off from the Senate. So these were the changes which it planned to bring in. Ending elections to Senate and filling 21 regional mayors, council heads selected by president. So it will not be elections, but president would select them. So these were the proposed amendments which were opposed. So it is called an anti-establishment sentiment which was running high amongst the people, and the no vote got the majority support. So this is the development in Italy in EU. So these are the possibilities which were shown, that if it is a no vote or if it is a yes vote. Even with a no vote, Prime Minister can stay on or he may resign. So he has decided to resign. So then when would elections be conducted next? What would happen to the law? So these are the provisions put forth here. You can go through them. You don't need to go in very much detail. This is about EU. Italy is also a member of EU. You can see in Europe. So these are the members of EU. Prominently you can see that this is Norway. Norway is not a member of EU, and Switzerland is not a member of EU. These are the other members. Then the next news item is Rajapaksa slams draft proposals for constitution. So Sri Lanka is framing a new constitution for itself. The LTTE war, civil war, ended. The army, Sri Lankan army, was able to wipe off LTTE, and now there is a need for reintegration, reconciliation of the entire regions which were under LTTE control with the entire Sri Lanka. So this requires a new constitution to be framed, and this is being proposed. So various proposals under it have been questioned by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. So he says that these proposals are stripping the provincial governors of powers, because basically you should understand LTTE too. LTTE was prominent in northern and western parts of Sri Lanka, northern and eastern parts of Sri Lanka. You can see here, these northern and eastern parts. So these were LTTE controlled areas, and what they demanded were, these were people from LTTE's Liberation Tigers of Tamil Elam. So majority of the population in Sri Lanka is Sinhala population, and this language is Sinhalese, and these are the people from Tamil origin, and they are Tamilians. The language is Tamil. So Sinhala is a majority. You can see the composition of Sri Lanka here too. So 74.9% is Sinhalese. 11.2 are Sri Lankan Tamils, 4.2 are even Indian Tamils. And you can see this is Tamil Nadu. So this Park Strait India and Sri Lanka are neighbors, not by land, but they are close to each other. So the point is that Tamils were a minority and they felt that the Sri Lankan Sinhalese population is dominating. So that is the reason why these separatist groups were also formed. So they were demanding Tamil Elam, a separate nation for themselves comprising of these regions. But then the war went on for long. Even in 1987, India intervened too. We'll see that too. So post finally LTTE was eliminated completely by the Sri Lankan government. This was in 2009, LTT completely ended, and now the new constitution being framed wants these regions to be having significant powers too, because the threat of to the minorities is that their powers would be stripped off. They would not get significant powers. So what they want is federalism. So federalism means more powers given to the provinces too. But the former president presently is speaking that you cannot bring in federalism. Our model is Indian constitution, and Indian constitution is federation with a strong center. So that is what Sri Lanka also should have. So he is using India's name in this matter. India has intervened in Sri Lanka too. We are coming forward to that too. So he says that is the model. So governors cannot have complete powers. They have to be reporting to the center and should be agents of the center. So that is what he says. Even Tamil and Sinhala both should be official languages. This was one more demand which has been incorporated as a proposal in this new constitution being framed. So these are the provisions. So let's see, because the thing is that in Sri Lanka, the Tamil Elam, LTTE was supported by India. So Tamil Nadu government, Tamil Nadu as such too, and central government at some time supported them. But then later there was an accord, an agreement signed between India and Sri Lanka. This was Indo-Sri Lanka Peace Accord of 1987. So this was by then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, who signed this accord with Sri Lankan President Jayawardene. So this was to end the Sri Lankan civil war and LTTE should surrender. LTTE initially agreed, yes, they would surrender, but later they backtracked, and this resulted in India being embroiled in this whole issue, and India sends its forces. So India had sent these forces under Operation Pavan. So Indian peacekeeping forces were brought in Sri Lanka, and they were fighting against LTTE now, asking them to surrender. So putting pressure on them to surrender. So this conflict later resulted in LTTE suffering heavily too, but LTTE was not completely eliminated. Sri Lankan government on its part then had agreed that they would pass an amendment. So this amendment was passed in as part of the Sri Lankan constitution. This is called 13th amendment to Sri Lankan constitution. So under this, there would be significant powers handed to the provincial bodies. So provinces would get significant powers, plus also provincial councils especially should be established first of all and given powers, plus Sinhala and Tamil both should become national languages and English should remain only as a link language. So these were the two major provisions: establishment of provincial councils and the two languages both becoming official languages. So this 13th amendment was passed. Under it, then the land had to be devolved to for the provinces. Police had to be given powers also in provincial councils. Financial powers to the provinces. All these powers had to be given to the councils, which became a problem. So in implementation, it did not come into effect. So this problem continued, and Sri Lanka was pressurized to quite often by India to implement 13th amendment, but nothing came forth. The amendment has been passed but not put into effect, and presently this constitution will no longer be effective. Sri Lanka is framing a new constitution taking all these into consideration. So that is the issue on which the former president is speaking. So this is regarding Sri Lanka. Next is researchers adopt novel approach to drug discovery. These researchers from Delhi have discovered a new way to understand which drug target and which will be a potential drug and where should it be targeted. So these for drugs, they are planning to develop drugs for diseases caused due to roundworm and flatworm. So these are parasites, they cause several diseases, and these are diseases generally seen in African countries where the huge burden lies, and pharmaceutical companies are not interested in developing any molecule, any drug for these diseases, because African countries, they will not be high paying. So that is also there, and there is also a threat of drug resistance being developed for these drugs which are already there. So there is a need to bring in fresh drugs for these diseases, and these Delhi researchers are working on this matter. What they have found out right now is to develop a new molecule, you did not do trial and errors. Rather, you can specifically dedicate which site to target and how should it be done. So for these two worms, they have picked up this synthesis, aminosyl tRNA synthesis. So this is an enzyme, a group of enzymes. It comprises of this 20 members, and each of these 20 members enzymes should be present for protein synthesis. So this is an enzyme group for protein synthesis. So if anyone is not effective, protein synthesis does not take place, and they have picked up this, targeting this. So a drug which can target this region and make it ineffective will help in making the worms ineffective and countering the disease. So this is how they are moving ahead on this drug discovery. So that is being highlighted. What is more important for us rather than this discovery and drug development is about roundworm and flatworm. So worms cause various diseases, and they are majorly prominent in tropical areas in the world, and these diseases are generally seen in African countries. So these are the worms. You can see they infect. This schistosoma is a worm which frequently infects people working in rice fields. So schistosoma is the one which they are working on to. This is the flatworm, schistosoma flatworm. So these affect rice field workers too. There is one disease called elephantiasis, which is caused due to roundworm. So it results in these limbs, legs becoming like elephant legs. So you can see. So this is one disease caused due to these worms. Schistosomiasis is another disease. You can see it majorly affects Africa. So high risk areas are all majorly in Africa. So this is caused due to flatworm. The next news item is Japanese war veteran remembers shocking assault on Pearl Harbor. So this is regarding the Pearl Harbor which was attacked by Japanese forces in 1941. So this you can see is the map. This is the Hawaii Island which belongs to USA, and here lies the Pearl Harbor. This is Japan. So this was in 1941. So during the Second World War, this Pearl Harbor attack took place, and this resulted in casualties for USA. So it was a surprise attack, and it took the entire authority by storm. It was this US naval base which was located here on Hawaii Island, which is too. So all these ships were targeted, many were sunk, damaged and destroyed. So as a response to this Pearl Harbor, of course, USA retaliated. So it was in 1945 when Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed. So Japanese were brought to surrender, and the World War II ended with this atom bomb which was put on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So this was Paul W. Tibbets and his crew who dropped these bombs, uranium-based atomic bombs, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was Hiroshima's bomb was called Little Boy. So it was 13 kilotons TNT bomb. So you can see the nuclear weapons then. These were the two put on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 15 kilotons Little Boy on Hiroshima and 21 kilotons Fat Man on Nagasaki. So this compared to the present nuclear weapons is this. Trident is the nuclear weapon with USA, and this SS is the nuclear weapon with Russia. So these are much larger than the nuclear weapons which have been used once in the world. So there have been no more nuclear attacks post this. So this is the shown. Also the casualties which this Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing caused, it resulted in 1,40,000, more than that, plus dying immediately and after some time too due to the radiations. And 67% of the buildings were destroyed in the region. 3,000 to 4,000 was the temperature, degree Celsius was the temperature in this blast region, and it was 20,000 kilotons, 20 kilotons as such, the force of the explosion which was used. So this is regarding the two incidents which are important from world history perspective. So that is it for today. Thank you.